The truth is, we all have moments in our lives when we feel weak, when we feel like we're at a crossroads and don't know which way to go. It's easy to think that you're alone in those moments, but the reality is, we all experience them, some more quietly than others. Have you ever been in a situation where someone you cared about was struggling, but you didn't realize just how much? This is the story of how I caught someone close to me in a moment of weakness when everything seemed to be falling apart, and what I did next changed everything. It's easy to judge, to point fingers, especially when we're hurt or confused. But what if in those moments, instead of walking away, we chose to help? What if we saw through the mistakes and understood the reasons behind them? Let me take you back to the moment everything changed. Part 2. I could see it in his eyes. The guilt, the regret, the sorrow. It was all written across his face. I had never seen him like this before. At first, I didn't understand what was happening. I had heard the whispers, the rumors, and I could feel the tension in the air. But this was different. I caught him at a moment where he wasn't the man I thought I knew. His actions, his betrayal, it was all too much to process. In that instant, I could have walked away. I could have lashed out, demanding answers, seeking revenge. I could have done what so many people would have done, shut him out, pushed him away, and ended it all right then and there. But instead, I chose to take a step back, to pause and reflect, because deep down, I knew something that I didn't fully understand at the time. Sometimes, the biggest gift you can give someone is compassion. Part 3. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. This wasn't about me. It wasn't about the anger or the betrayal. This was about him. The truth hit me like a ton of bricks. He wasn't just dealing with his own demons. He was trapped in his own mistakes, desperately trying to escape from a place of darkness. I could see it now, the weight of the guilt, the shame, and the endless regret. I realized that he wasn't just betraying me. He was betraying himself. In that moment, I made a decision. I chose to help him, to listen, to understand. I didn't know if he deserved forgiveness, but I knew that in order for him to move forward, he needed support, not condemnation. I said, "We need to talk. We need to fix this together." Part 4. And that's when everything shifted. The conversation we had was raw, emotional, and completely honest. We didn't sugarcoat anything. There were tears, there were uncomfortable silences, but there was also understanding. I could see how much he was struggling to come to terms with what he had done. It wasn't about excusing his actions, but about understanding the pain that had led him there. For the first time in a long time, he opened up. He admitted the mistakes he had made, and with each word, I could see a weight lifting off his shoulders. The vulnerability he showed, it wasn't easy, but it was real. And in that moment, I realized that healing doesn't come from punishment. It comes from understanding, from helping someone face the truth, and giving them a chance to make things right. Part 5. This wasn't just about saving our relationship, it was about saving him from himself. I knew that this wasn't going to be an easy road. Healing, rebuilding trust, it takes time. But I also knew that I couldn't do this for him. He had to want it. He had to want to change, to do the hard work of facing his own demons and making things right. We went through months of tough conversations, of relearning how to trust and communicate. But every step, every small victory, brought us closer. And while it wasn't always pretty, it was real. We were both changing, learning how to love each other again. This time with more honesty, more empathy, and more respect. Part 6. As I look back, I realized that catching him in that moment of weakness wasn't the end, it was the beginning of something more profound. It wasn't just about catching him cheating. It was about catching a glimpse of who he really was: flawed, vulnerable, and deeply human. And in that moment, I didn't just see a man who had hurt me. I saw a man who needed help, who needed redemption, who needed someone to believe in him again. Sometimes the hardest moments lead to the most beautiful transformations. And in this story, the lesson is clear. When you catch someone in their weakest moment, you have a choice. You can let them stay there, or you can help them rise. Part 7. So, what happened next? we're still here, stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. It wasn't an easy journey, and we both had our doubts along the way. But today, when I look at him, I see the man he's become, not just because of me, but because he took the time to understand his own weaknesses and work to become better. Infidelity is a betrayal that cuts deep, but it's not the end of the road if you're willing to take the hard path of healing. Sometimes the most unexpected moments can lead to the greatest change. And so, here we are together. Not because we have to be, but because we chose to be. Part 8. The biggest takeaway from this story? It's simple. Don't let someone's mistakes define them. People make mistakes, and sometimes they need someone to believe in their ability to change. In the end, it's not about what happened in the past, it's about what we choose to do with the present and the future. So, ask yourself this. When someone you care about makes a mistake, do you give them the chance to learn and grow? Or do you walk away? Part 9. As time went on, the weight of that moment, the choice to help rather than walk away, became clearer to me. There were days when the journey felt like too much. There were moments when I doubted my decision, wondering if forgiveness and compassion could truly heal the wounds of betrayal. But slowly, something beautiful started to emerge. It wasn't just the trust we were rebuilding, but the understanding of each other's humanity, the raw, unfiltered truth of who we were and who we wanted to be. Through all the challenges, we learned that the real power lies in how we respond to life's most difficult moments. It's easy to give up, to walk away when things get tough. But true strength comes from facing those moments head on, with empathy and a willingness to grow. That's what I gave him. That's what he gave me. And slowly, we began to rebuild something that was even stronger than before. Part 10. It was during one of those tough conversations that I truly realized how much we had both changed. In the early days, there was a lot of anger and confusion. But as time passed, we started to truly understand each other. I understood his fears, the reasons behind his actions, and he understood mine. I learned that sometimes people make mistakes not out of malice, but because they're struggling with things they don't know how to cope with. I realized that the way forward wasn't about holding on to the hurt, it was about learning how to heal together. And that meant embracing the difficult parts of our journey. We found the strength to face the truth, to communicate without fear of judgment, and to move forward with hope. Part 11. But here's the thing. The hardest part was not forgiving him, it was forgiving myself. I spent so much time blaming him for the betrayal, but I soon realized that I, too, was holding on to anger and resentment that wasn't doing me any good. It wasn't just about his mistakes. It was about how I had carried that pain and let it affect my own peace of mind. When I finally forgave him, I realized that I had to forgive myself too for staying in a place of hurt for so long, for allowing the anger to fester. True healing came when I released both the blame and the pain. It was then that we both began to move forward, not as victims of our past, but as partners who had faced our darkest moments together and emerged stronger because of it. Part 12. In the end, it wasn't about erasing the past, it was about learning from it. The journey of rebuilding trust and love after infidelity is long and challenging, but it's also one of the most profound experiences a relationship can go through. We learn that relationships aren't perfect. They're messy, complex, and often painful. But when you truly care for someone, you don't walk away when things get hard, you stay. You work through the pain, and you build something better. Together, every time we made progress, it felt like a small victory. Every moment of understanding, every step towards forgiveness was a testament to the strength of our commitment. And slowly, I began to see him not just as the person who made a mistake, but as the person who was willing to change, to grow, and to become better for both of us. Part 13. So here we are, years later, reflecting on that moment, the moment when everything could have ended, when I could have chosen to walk away. But I didn't, and I'm grateful for that. Because, in the end, it wasn't about the betrayal. It wasn't about the mistakes. It was about the choice we both made to face our challenges together and to come out stronger on the other side. Now, when I look back on everything we've been through, I don't see just the hurt and the pain, I see the strength and the love that we've built. And I know that no matter what happens, we've already overcome the hardest part. Choosing to forgive, choosing to grow, and choosing each other. Part 14. The final lesson I learned from this experience. Forgiveness is not just about the other person, it's about you too. It's about freeing yourself from the chains of anger and resentment that hold you back from healing. It's about understanding that people make mistakes, but that doesn't define their worth or the future you can build together. If you're ever faced with a moment like this, remember that healing takes time, but it's possible. And sometimes, the hardest moments are the ones that lead to the most beautiful transformations. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to the people you love. And remember, sometimes it's not about erasing the past, it's about learning from it and growing from it. Part 15. Looking back, I realize how important that moment was, not just for us, but for me as well. When we're faced with betrayal, it's easy to allow the hurt to define our actions, to let bitterness take root. It's easy to become consumed with the need for retribution, for some kind of validation of our pain. But what I learned through all of this is that the real power lies in our ability to rise above the pain, to choose compassion over vengeance, and understanding over judgment. When I helped him, when I chose to see past his actions and into the struggles that led him there, I wasn't just helping him heal, I was healing myself. The anger I carried began to lose its grip on me. Slowly, I felt lighter. I realized that holding onto the past, holding onto the resentment, was only keeping me trapped in a cycle that wasn't serving me. In helping him find a way back, I found my own peace. Part 16. We often hear the phrase, "Time heals all wounds." But in my experience, it's not just time, it's what you do with that time. It's easy to think that healing is something that happens to you, that with enough time, the pain will fade. But healing is an active process. It's something you have to choose, something you have to work at every single day. You can't just wait for it to happen. You have to confront the hurt, face the reality of what's been broken, and take the necessary steps to rebuild it. And that's what we did. We didn't let time do all the work. We worked together, side by side, through every painful moment. We communicated, we sought therapy, and we didn't shy away from the hard conversations. It wasn't easy, but it was worth every step, every hour, every day, every small breakthrough. It all added up to something much greater than the sum of our past mistakes. Part 17. There were days when I questioned if we were on the right path. There were moments when I wondered if we were simply too far gone. But what kept me going was the realization that love, in its truest form, isn't about perfection, it's about acceptance. It's about accepting someone for who they are, flaws and all, and choosing to stand by them as they work to become the best version of themselves. I realized that I didn't need him to be perfect. I needed him to be real. I needed him to own his mistakes, to face his weaknesses, and to grow from them. That's what love really is, helping someone rise from their lowest point. Not because you expect them to be perfect, but because you believe in their potential to change. Part 18. The most powerful thing we can do in moments of weakness is to give the other person the space to grow. There's something transformative about giving someone the chance to become better, to redeem themselves, and to build a future based on what they've learned from their mistakes. When we hold on to the hurt, when we choose to punish rather than heal, we prevent the possibility of change. But when we let go of the past, when we allow room for growth and understanding, we unlock a future full of possibilities. I've seen that firsthand. The man I once knew, the man who betrayed me, is now someone I respect deeply, not for what he's done to me, but for how he's worked to make things right. He's not perfect, and neither am I, but we've both worked hard to get to where we are today. Part 19. As I sit here reflecting on everything that's happened, I realize that the real question isn't, can people change? The real question is, are we willing to give them the chance to? The choice to help, to forgive, and to rebuild is one that requires immense courage. It requires a level of emotional maturity and understanding that not everyone possesses. But the reward? It's worth it. Because when you choose to help someone during their lowest moments, You're not just giving them a chance to change, you're giving yourself a chance to grow as well. I've learned that infidelity doesn't have to be the end of a relationship. It can be a turning point, a catalyst for growth, healing, and transformation. But only if you're willing to see the bigger picture, to look beyond the hurt, and to help each other rise. Part 20. So here's what I want you to take away from this story. No one's perfect. We all make mistakes. We all have moments of weakness, but those moments don't have to define us. What defines us is how we respond to those moments, the choices we make, the way we treat others, and the way we choose to heal. If you find yourself in a situation like mine, where betrayal has shaken your foundation, know this: healing isn't linear. It's not always pretty, but it's worth it. And sometimes, the person who hurts you the most is the one who needs your compassion the most. Ask yourself, will you choose to walk away, or will you choose to help them rise?